Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Radio Show on Sirius XM Channel 168. The good news and bad news about money. If you've missed any parts of this program, all of our programs are archived. Go to richdadradio.com and re-listen to any parts of the show. And now we're going into one of our more popular segments, which is called Ask Robert. I promise you I will be direct. I won't sugarcoat anything. You may not like my answers, but I will answer the question as best I can. And one reminder, too, please tell us what your favorite book is, but also you can choose your next favorite book, and we can send it to you there. And I'm really surprised at how many questions come in from all over the world. For example, many questions come in from South Africa, and I'm very happy to say I'll be in South Africa in July of 2013 this year. So for those of you around the world, please pay attention, and I'll be in Canada also this year. So it's really an international program, so I appreciate the questions. So what's the first question, Melissa?
The question is this. Detroit is in shambles with acres of vacant homes, the highest murder rate, highest child poverty rate in the nation. Texas, on the other hand, has a budget surplus and 5 of the top 20 fastest growing cities in the country. Why aren't people paying attention to this?
Well, it's a great question. I wish I could answer it yes or no, or if and when. But I think it goes back to a further question. The most important question is, why aren't people paying attention? I think that's really the question. And another way of answering what our subject has been, about the 5 Gs, which is grub, gasoline, ground, gold, and guns. This one is ground, real estate. Look, where you live is important. So as my friend Sam Kinison once said, he says, when people are starving, don't send them food, send them suitcases so they can move, And unfortunately, that's where real estate fits in, and Kim and I invest heavily in real estate in Texas, and we just bought another property in Houston. I'm looking at another property in Dallas. Why? Because it's good real estate. And my other idiot friends are running up to Detroit because everything's cheap. I'm going, you've really got to be an idiot. But the question is, why are people idiots? I think really that's the question, right, Kim?
Well, I see. Okay, so you're talking about Detroit being a mess and Texas booming, and why aren't people paying attention? I'm going to let's go back to the Boston Marathon bombings we're talking about. I'm having a conversation with my family, and we're watching the news.
Democrats, of course, Democrats.
Well, we're watching the news, and they're like, oh, yay, they caught the bad guys, and I'm like, well, maybe they did. Maybe we don't know all the facts. Maybe there's something behind this. Maybe we don't know really what happened. Oh, no, they caught the bad guys, and the police and the government, they're the good guys. And I'm like, well, maybe not. Maybe not. But they don't want to face anything that's gray. And it's no different than somebody who is working every day for that paycheck, and they're addicted to that paycheck. Don't tell me my company might be in trouble. Don't tell me the economy's bad. Just let me get my paycheck. That's all I want to hear. I think that's a lot of what's happening right here.
Well, there was a movie, it was called Shallow Hal. Most people today are shallow. There's good and bad, white hats, black hats, but they don't look at the underlying causes of things. And I think really that's the problem. The young man in this question asked about the corrupt education system. Talk about corruption. Man, my father was head of education in the state of Hawaii. Those guys are a bunch of crooks. They're all labor union guys, Democrats who believe the government should take care of people. And this is what they're teaching their kids. And so you have all these intellectuals out there who think, well, yeah, let's give people food. That'll solve the problem. Let's give them money. That'll solve the problem. And yet in Sunday school, they said you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, or you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And what we're teaching our kids from our leaders on down is the government should take care of you. And I think underlying all of this mess is the difference between Detroit and Texas. Besides, Texas has oil. But other than that, this whole thing here is, what the heck are our schools teaching kids? That the government should take care of you? The more we do that, the worse the problem gets. Look at food stamps. That is increasing. Entitlement programs are increasing. The police and the firefighters, their unions are corrupt also. I've talked about it for years. I love my police, I love my firefighters, but let me tell you something, their unions are bankrupting us because they expect the government to take care of them. From the president on down, the president is going to collect $1 million a year because he can't take care of himself. Romney could, but Obama can't. We all know that. So this whole thing here is a corrupt education system. Going back to real estate, buy real estate where there's oil. Very simple. So anyway, I appreciate the question because, the shallow hell, man, I think the planet is filled with shallow hells. And I wrote my newest book is why A students work for C students and B students work for the government. I mean, these idiots call me and say, how can you say that? How can you criticize the education system? I said, well, it needs to be criticized. It doesn't mean I hate the system. It means it needs to be it needs to improve. What the heck do we teach kids about money? Absolutely nothing. But what we're learning here is that we should give people money. I mean, how stupid is that? We're printing money, and people like Pavlovian dogs save money. I mean, you got to think, sweetheart, if they're printing trillions of dollars, why would you save that junk? It's paper. So I know gold is under attack and all this stuff right now, but I would rather have gold because gold has lasted for thousands of years and paper only lasts, a Zippo will take care of that one. So that's really the difference here. Again, this is the Rich Dad Radio program, and we're in the section called Ask Robert. If you have any questions, please ask them. Again, we're just swamped with questions, and I wish we could answer them all, but we're answering ones that are most topical of the time.
So if you have a question, just go to richdadradio.com and submit your question, and we'll get to as many as we can.
Our next question comes from Jeremy. Jeremy is from Orlando, Florida. Favorite book, Unfair Advantage as well.
Oh, man. I tell you, if you haven't read that book there, you got to understand is how our own government is screwing us. These tragedies are predictable throughout time, and they're always predictable when people mess with the money supply. And as you know, the Fed is printing money. Japanese are now taking off printing money. The European Union is now robbing banks, like the Cyprus banks. And people are still going, well, you should go to school and you should save money and put it in mutual funds. Man, you've got to be a freaking idiot to do that.
Well, the last question was, why aren't people paying attention? They could just pick up a book and they could start asking questions. Just pick up a book, start reading, ask some questions, start thinking for yourself.
Move to Detroit.
Jeremy's question is also in topic with the 5Gs today, and his question is this. When round 2 of the financial disaster hits, will real estate continue to be a good source of cash flowing income?
That's a great question. It has nothing to do with real estate. It has to do with your financial education and your experience. See, what's happening today is you look at the world economy. I'll give you a macro view. As you may know, or may not know if you're shallow hell, is that the Japanese are once again printing money like crazy. They did this back in 1990s. And then what happens then is the banks then go to Japan, they take all this free yen at low interest rates, they come back to the United States and they put it in our stock market. Well, back in the 1996 area, that caused the boom in the stock market. It also caused a boom in real estate. So today, in 2013, you look at the stock market, it's through the roof, when the real stats show that exports are declining all over the world. We're going into another recession right now, and it's a thing called the plunge protection theme. What it does is an offshore account by the federal government, so they say, it's my suspicion, which is part of the conspiracy of the rich and unfair advantage, is what happens is every time the stock market crashes, they move more money in right away to prop it back up. They move it back in to prop it back up. Where the stats show the insiders are moving their money out of the stock market and the amateurs are moving in. So as you know, it's going to be stand up, bend over, and grab the soap time. Because all these amateurs running into the stock market right now, it's a long answer to a short question, is that the Japanese printing money is coming back in. The U.S. is propping the stock market up because they want everybody to get this false security, while the professionals are moving their money slowly out of the stock market. That's going on right now. So the crash that we had in real estate is the same crash we're going to have in the stock market next. So the real estate market crashed in 2007. The next crash is going to be in the stock market. I hope it doesn't happen, but that's what I see right now. So is real estate a good investment? It only depends if you're a good investor. You see, even if the stock market crashes, that the professionals are going to make fortunes. Just like the guys who, when Apple was at 700, now it's down to like 400. Guys made more money coming down than the amateurs going up. So the whole long-winded answer to a short question is, simply said, pros make money, amateurs get screwed. So you got to make a decision today, whether it's real estate, stocks, or commodities. Do you want to be a professional or you want to be an amateur? That's really the question.
I also look at, if there's a financial disaster, what can I control? Okay, I can't control the stock market. So, I mean, for me personally, I've never been a fan of the stock market. And when he talks about real estate, the other question, when you talk about Robert being a professional, what kind of real estate? I mean, there's all certain kinds of real estate. So people say, oh, he's talking about real estate. That must be single-family homes. Oh, that must be commercial. Oh, that must... What kind of real estate do you want to be a pro in? And then earlier in the show, we talked about the 5 Gs, gold, ground, which is real estate, grub, which is food, gas, and... Guns. I want to have control over those. So what things can I have control over when this financial economy, if it crashes, what can I have control over? That's what I'm looking for.
So let me just say one more thing. We're buying apartment houses. We're not buying them in Detroit, sports fans. Okay, because it's too democratic, it's too liberal, it's too communist. They wanted to give people money.
There's no jobs either.
It makes the economy worse to do
Yes.
that. Meanwhile, all of our properties, not all of them, but most of them, are in Dallas, Texas, and Houston, Texas. Why? Oil. Or Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Oil. See, the whole thing is interrelated. There's not one is separate from the other. My point here is this. If you're going to be an amateur, put your money in the bank and have the banker steal it from you. The best asset you have is your brain. We started this whole thing, this conversation of a corrupt education system. What in the world does school teach you about money? Nothing. They just tell you to work hard, which you put your money in the bank, save money, get out of debt, and put your money in mutual funds. You're going to get screwed doing that, sports fans. This whole thing with Japan printing so much money is floating the stock market right now. And once again, there's going to be a shellacking going to come pretty quickly. I hope it doesn't happen. But remember this, as the amateurs get screwed, the professionals get richer in any investment. So the question is, again, are you going to stay an amateur? You're going to be a professional, or you're going to be shallow Hal saying, oh, the government's going to save me. Once again, it's Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Radio. The good news and bad news about money. We've covered the 5 Gs. I think these are very exciting times, but not if you're shallow Hal sitting there, oh, that guy wears a white hat, that guy wears a black hat. Then there's the 2 Boston bombers. One had a white hat, one had a black hat. And they're both, they both bombed the heck out of the place. Final comments, Kim.
One final note on this whole thing about a financial disaster. I hear a lot of people use that as an excuse not to do anything. Oh, there's a financial crisis coming. I better not do anything. I better not invest in real estate because there's not going to be any renters. There's not going to be any homeowners. Get educated. As Robert says, read books. Take a Rich Dad education class. Take coaching. But get educated because you got to do something. You got to do something. You got to be prepared. So do something. Don't use it as an excuse to not do anything because this whole thing is coming apart. Get educated, get smarter, and be prepared.
Remember, this is a very, very good time to be alive if you're smart. But if you're shallow Hal, it's going to be really tough.
You've been listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki. To learn more about the good news and bad news about money, go to richdadradio.com. What if you lost your